Alright, so for our second installment, once again, Warner Brothers takes a Disney star to be their leading actress. Is that kind of like the trend here? Is that what the whole point of these Cinderella movies are? Is like Warner Brothers like, ha ha ha, we can make a better Cinderella story than you can, and we'll do it with your former teenage stars. Because that's kind of what it feels like. My favorite line in the whole movie is there's a scene pretty early on where Selena Gomez, who is our primary character, and she's called Mary in this story, tells her best friend Tammy, you should really breathe between monologues. And that struck me as both funny in the delivery, in the placement, and just, you know, it was a funny line. It's actually one of the more memorable lines. This movie, on one hand, is far more of your typical formula for high school stories. It has a lot of that polished urban hip-hop music kind of culture thing going on in this one. Whereas the first story just kind of felt a little more average Joe Schmo kind of story, like anybody could be Cinderella, because there was nothing like over the top about their lifestyle or anything like that. In this one, the Prince Charming character is actually a hip-hop star who is taking a break from being a singer-dancer in order to just go to high school, and secretly he feels like he's lost his mojo, and he's trying to get back that passion and be reminded why he went into the path of being a child star that he did. And so returning home, his parents are just vapid, and they really don't do much for the story. They're just kind of there for one scene. And then, but he has this former girlfriend, Natalia, and it kind of seems strange to me on one hand that the retelling of Cinderella's stories in the contemporary settings, they almost always have to have this extra female character. She's not a stepsister. She's somebody that's actually more formable than the stepsisters. And she's just, you know, she's there to be an extra foil. That way the stepsisters can still be stupid and follow that comedy relief kind of thing. Like, you know, they're really no match for Cinderella. And on one hand, they kind of keep that. They keep the fact that the stepsisters are twins. I find this continued trope of twins rather frustrating and annoying, because it's like twins are never portrayed as being smart or capable or talented or, you know, any good qualities. They're just there to be a shtick, and it's really annoying. But in this one, they are a little step up compared to the previous film, in that one of them shows a little more intelligence, not a lot more, and she's more ferocious. She's kind of like the uglier of the two. She has braces and just, you know, always has this nasty looking expression on her face. But she's a little more shrewder than her sister, and she's just, she actually has more scenes and lines and stuff in this than her twin sister, which is kind of interesting. So they do kind of set apart without it just being skinny and tall and short and a little chubby, but actually having slightly different personalities. Now the other sister, she actually looks a little prettier, a little more stylish, but she is way dumber. And it's like, oh, why do they always have to make these cliches? There's a few things like in their interactions and how they scheme that works and is a little different. But overall, I just have to mark them as average, because that's what they are. Our main character, Mary, Selena Gomez is a really good actress. And I feel like this movie shows it, because her character, Mary, doesn't necessarily have a lot of personality, but Selena Gomez brings whatever personality to the table that the character, we do see from the character. And she does really good, you know, between showing that tough girl, like, she's a tomboy, she dresses like a tomboy, yet her bedroom's all feminine and pink, and girly colors and such, and it's decorated very girly. She has this passion, you know, going on in her all the time, and yet she can be wildly insecure and questions, you know, guys like that doesn't go for guys like me, and the inflections in her voice changing, like she knows things about the world for certain, like she's for sure, and then, you know, that second guessing, like, but maybe it is possible. And Selena Gomez really does a good job at capturing that, and in some ways I feel like the character does show a little more depth because of this constant contrast, and it shows some contrast. And, you know, just being a girl, you can be girly and still like to dress a little more like a tomboy. You can like have a passion for dancing. In this case, it's a lot of the hip hop. Like I said, it plays more in the hip hop urban culture thing going on. And, you know, because I'm not really into that stuff, I can't really judge on like some of the dancing or the clothing, wardrobe choices, and music and stuff like that. To me, it's like, meh, it's okay, I guess. You know, it's not my thing. So I don't want to judge too harshly, but I have the feeling that maybe people who are into those, into the music, into the dancing, and even the clothes, the wardrobe style, may go posers. Like, you know, it's punk used to be edgy and everything, and then became commercialized, and it kind of distorts the whole purpose of punk. So, you know, I think like with that urban hip-hop thing, that's definitely evident there. This is the commercialized, this is the clean, sanitized-ish, you know, if you want to call it that, the sterile, sanitized version of that subculture, that, you know, style. But they do, because it is dancing, they do bring out a little bit of ballet. And Talia, you know, she has the Italian name, I mean, not Italian, Russian name. And she does some ballet, which is an interesting cliche to throw in there. I feel like there was almost a character growth arc with that character at the end. But again, it's like it's just tacked on at the end. It's like, well, that's disappointing. I would have liked to have seen them actually do something so that she's not just that mean girl archetype, the ex-girlfriend foil that, you know, you have to overcome, that scheming, you know, person that's smarter than the twins, the stepsisters. It's just like, eh. Also, it's very obvious watching this movie that a certain movie that I really hated, Elle, A Modern Cinderella Story, is desperately ripping off this movie. And there's this subplot about a video. The stepsisters, early on in the movie, finds an embarrassing self-recorded VHS tape of Mary when she was like 11 years old, singing a song and just like talking about how she's in love with this pop star, Joey Parker. And they have the tape and they use it as leverage, but that kind of leverage doesn't last very long, mostly because Mary knows the sisters are too stupid to really embarrass her with it. Only that kind of backfires on her later. And then she quickly recovers from it. Which, you know, in this movie, another Cinderella story, it actually works. The storyline and how certain beats carry on. Whereas in Elle, I think they were just cherry picking elements from the Cinderella stories, and they didn't do it very well at all. Another element that they try to rip off is the TAMI character. TAMI is a fairy godmother character. She's the best friend character. She's fun. She's the zany sidekick character. But it mostly works, and she has her own romance story on the side. In some ways, she was replacing the Carter character, whereas Carter was constantly insecure and trying on these different personas and costumes and stuff to wear at school, from being a cowboy to trying to be, you know, a hip-hop gangsta and stuff like that. Like, every day he would try this new persona. Tammy, on the other hand, she's actually secure in her being enough that she will wear this crazy-looking tutu to school and wears these streaks and stuff in her hair, and for her, it suits her. This is part of who she is. She doesn't care if people think she's weird. She doesn't mind if she stands out as being different because she knows she is different, and she's not afraid to show who she is to anybody in high school or elsewhere. So it's kind of interesting to see the contrast where Warner Brothers did use certain ideas that they had in the first Cinderella story, and they kind of flipped them around a little bit in this. On one hand, I feel like the story itself is actually weaker than the original Cinderella story. But they also did fix some elements. For one thing, the ball that they go to is actually a special black and white dance. Now, TAMI and Mary and a few other people think it's a costume party, and they dress that way. But it's black and white. So Mary's dress is all red, and she's, of course, the only person wearing red, so naturally she stands out right away. Mary is embarrassed and insecure about this, whereas Sam was a little more certain of who she was. Mary is much more insecure. They both have the goals about graduating and going on to a particular school. Sam wanted to go to Princeton College because she's smart, and it kept pushing the she's so smart aspect and hardworking, without the character actually showing it. Just, oh, she studies all the time, and throwaway lines like that. And one of the stepsisters having Sam do her homework for her. So we get a lot of talking about how smart Sam is without actually seeing it playing out in the story in any way. In Mary, we see that she has this passion for dance. She wants to go to this special school for of the arts, and so this is her motivation, her drive, is she's going to go and she's going to do this. The stepmother character, Dominique, is suitably vapid and petty and malicious. The difference is the actress who plays her, she's a completely different body type. She's a very different style of comedy actress, and yet they still do some of the slapsticks and stuff. But it was really interesting to see the contrast of this stepmother right after watching the first Cinderella story by Warner Brothers. So there are some moments where you almost think that she's going to be vulnerable and kind, and then it just flips. And they do this like 3 or 4 times throughout the movie. And the last time, you just know right off the bat, she's just being malicious through it, but it kind of works. She is an older woman who used to be a pop star, a singer in her own right, but now she's washed up. She has nothing, and she desperately wants to do a duet with JP, Joey Parker, in order to kind of get a comeback. And she's doing commercials and she does stuff like that, and she's living this extravagant lifestyle. She's still going to parties, but she's really just kind of a pitiful woman, and she's alone. And even though she has her 2 daughters, and she has Mary, who is not really her daughter, she's actually, in this story, it's not really a stepmother-stepsister relationship exactly. Dominique has taken Mary in as her, legal guardian, but she makes Mary her maid, and the reason is just because Mary's mother used to be a backup dancer for Dominique. So they had this kind of relationship, but not necessarily a friendly one. And Dominique is kind of, on one hand, you might say, well, she didn't really have to take this kid in. She could have let Mary go into the foster care system or something like that. So she does provide a roof over Mary's head when she really didn't have to at all. But being the wicked stepmother character, it's really about taking advantage of this youth. And she provides a roof over her head, but she constantly gives her workload. She makes her whipping boy, basically. Dominique's having a bad day, she's going to be yelling at Mary. And that's pretty much how it goes. But in some ways, I think the dynamics of the relationships being a little different, and you almost feel sorry for Dominique, being a washout star, being desperate, being alone. She's just kind of pitiful, and yet, on one hand, she knows she's a pitiful character, and yet she puts on this bluster and pretends like she's not. And so it's kind of sad. Whereas the other stepmother character that we had in Fiona in the previous movie, she really had no idea that she was an idiot or a loser or pathetic. She was a pretender of having this rich lifestyle. Dominique is not a pretender. She's had this rich lifestyle. She's rubbed elbows with important people, and she's desperately trying to continue to rub elbows with people. So it's an interesting contrast. Like I said, it does make it a little different. I don't want to say like one actress is better than the other actress, but I feel like she brought something a little different to the role, a little bit more, and so she does get above average markings. In a lot of ways, even though I think the story itself is a little bit weaker than the first movie, the execution of it is better. The acting is better. From Selena Gomez to even her romance interest to all the supporting cast. The supporting cast in this movie is a lot smaller. You really don't meet a lot of characters from the high school, whereas in the first one, the characters at the diner and the characters at the high school played a more important role in the story. And they really helped create a world around our two main characters and their relationship. In this one, we really don't have that. It's really condensed down. And the characters that they do show, like Joey's parents, are just really disposable. It's like, I guess the guy has to have parents, so it's nice that we show them at least twice in the movie, but they really don't serve much purpose other than to be ridiculous. The supporting cast we do get in TAMI, who is kind of like that Carter character, like the inverse of that, but she's also the Rhonda character because she's the Fairygodmother character. She's funny, and she has her own romance, like I said, and her romance is with our Prince Charming's best friend, who's, a high school student as well, but he's also the self-proclaimed manager of Joey Parker. And it's well deserved because Joey Parker, basically, his parents have been managing him, but they're both washed up performers themselves, and Joey just needs kind of a break from them controlling his career. And so his best friend is taking over and helping him because his best friend actually listens to him, and he doesn't always have the best advice because he's a teenager himself, but he's actually there to support Joey and not just use Joey and live through him, to maintain his own fame. I think, I wish I could remember the character's name. I'm terrible with names. I can't read it. Anyway, he calls himself the Funk, and that's like the only name I can think of. Is he called himself the Funk a few times, but I don't remember what the character's actual name is. But he's funny. He's a hip hop dancer. He does a little rap. Again, he's comfortable in his own shoes, and I think that's one reason why him and TAMI make such a really good couple. And it's actually really funny because early in the movie, when we first meet TAMI, she is perfectly happy with being, the school weirdo or whatever. And a little more than halfway through, I think it's about the start of the last act, she's talking to the Funk and stuff, and she's like, "You're so weird." And it's just hilarious to have her, of all people, judge him and go, "What?" Because here he is, this hip-hop dude and everything, but he talks about watching Dr. Phil, and just kind of the dialogue between them is really funny. And unless her actor's hands or not so good director or whatever, the scenes and bits of dialogue between the two characters could have easily just been awful. But the whole cast does a really good job at what they do, even if I'm not particularly fond of the character arcs and stuff. The actors themselves do a really good job. And so yeah, like I said, this movie, story-wise, I don't think it's as strong as its predecessor, but its execution is a lot better. And I still feel like this is a big to Disney being a Warner Brothers movie, taking the Cinderella name, which is a name that is so associated with Disney, and then a star that used to belong to Disney, and putting her in their movie and letting her shine, and basically making a kind of movie that you might see on the Disney Channel. But production-wise and stuff, it's better than a Disney original movie. So it's like a big to them, which I find pretty funny. And another thing is, there's a joke in here. The TAMI drives this orange big Volkswagen van. It's temperamental. It's Mary's main transportation anywhere, whereas Sam drove her own car. In this one, Tammy's the one with the vehicle, and Mary's dependent on either her skateboard or her best friend giving her rides places. And the car has a name. It's the Great Pumpkin. That in itself is an awesome joke. So basically, most of the best lines in this movie is either coming directly from TAMI or part of an exchange between her and somebody else. And so I really like this movie. In all total, I gave it a 2.357 when I averaged everything out. I will throw the numbers on the screen.